Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how I brew a French press. And you may be asking, so why are we watching you prep cups for cupping? And that is because the reason I like French press is because it is almost exactly the same as my cupping method. So cupping is a method where we put the coffee directly into a glass, we'll grind it up, and we'll add water to that glass, and we'll allow the coffee and the grounds to sit together for an amount of time before we break them up, allow them to settle into the bottom of the cup, and then we'll use a spoon to actually take coffee directly from the surface of the cup, and then we'll slurp it out of that spoon, and that will give us an idea of what that cup tastes like. And so we use this so that we can taste multiple coffees at once, or multiple cups of the same coffee at once. And it's one of my favorite methods for brewing because cupping is as close as you can get to that God cup of coffee, where you actually limited the amount of human hands involved in it. There's no real technique to it. It is straightforward and hands-off. And so removing the human hands and allowing the coffee to speak for itself. And I love that aspect of cupping. But this video is actually about French press, so let's get back to it. One of the reasons I love French press is it's simple. The brewer is simply a carafe where coffee and water go, and then a plunger which has a metal filter on it that you'll hold back the coffee grounds and you'll pour out the brewed coffee. And that's really it. The only other things you'll need besides your French press is really going to be a scale for consistency. I mean, you could use a scoop if you wanted. But a scale will really help you, and I'll go into how we'll use that scale. And you'll also want a tea kettle, something that you can heat the water up to boiling, and then you can easily pour out of. And you want to be able to pour it very quickly. You'll also want a timer, but this is a pretty easy one because you most likely have one either on your wrist or in your pocket. That is your watch or your phone. So getting started into brewing, there's really 6 simple steps that we're going to go through. The first step is dosing our coffee. So with French press, I really like to start at a 1:15 ratio. So that is, for every 1 gram of coffee that I use, I'm going to use 15 grams of water. So if I wanted a 12-ounce cup of coffee, just brewing that, I could use 27 grams of coffee and 400 grams of water, and that will give me exactly 12 ounces of brewed coffee when all is said and done. So the next step is going to be to grind the coffee. And you're going to want to use a medium to medium fine grind. So I know a lot of people are going to say that you want a coarser grind, but I really like a finer grind on this. The only thing that you're going to want to watch out for is if your resulting brew is overly strong and bitter, you may need to make your grind coarser. But if the brew is overly sour or weak, you're probably not fine enough. So don't be afraid to make it a little bit finer. It's going to extract it a lot better in the amount of time that we have with it. And it's unlikely that it's going to over extract if you follow these steps. Step number 3, we're going to add the coffee grounds to the brewer, and then we're going to add water to it. And when we start adding water, we're going to start a timer. And we want to add that water very quickly. But as we're doing so, we want to make sure that all the grinds that are in the container are being saturated. All right, so at about 3.5 to 4 minutes, you're going to want to break the crust of coffee that has formed along the top. This coffee is being held up by gases that were released by the coffee in reaction to water. And so as you do that, note the aromas of the coffee. And remember, you're not stirring this coffee, you're just breaking that crust. So the movement of a spoon should be to dip that coffee underneath the surface of the water, not stirring or swirling. Once you've broken up the crust, you can remove any coffee grounds that are still floating near the surface. Just take 2 spoons, skim the surface of the coffee, being careful not to stir it up, and remove any particles that were still at the surface. Finally, add your plunger. There's no need to plunge it all the way to the bottom. In fact, I would recommend plunging it just below the surface. All right, step 5, you're almost there. Except step 5 is to wait. Allow the coffee to sit for another 6 minutes. This is not only going to bring it to the perfect temperature for you to enjoy it and get the most out of its flavor, but it's also going to give time for those smaller coffee particles and larger coffee particles to settle to the bottom of the carafe. That means when you go to pour this coffee out, it's going to be smoother and you're going to have less coffee particles in the bottom of your cup. Finally, step 6, you're going to serve it. And when you go to pour this, be very gentle. What you don't want to do is pick coffee up from the bottom of the French press and stir it into the coffee that you are pouring into the cup. We're going to try and avoid that, so be very gentle. Also remember that as you pour into multiple cups, that provides opportunity for that coffee to be stirred up. So be gentle, take your time, and pour it evenly between multiple cups. And there you have it. That is how I brew a French press. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that wherever you are, you have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys later. Cheers.